Hello, everybody. This is Sree again at BizBuzz. What matters the most in your business, and sponsored by My Work Belt. My Work Belt is the all-in-one software, particularly catered to service-based small businesses. Again, I'm coming back to you with my good friend Victor, and we are going to talk about another business concept that you all can take away and hope to apply in your business and grow it. Victor, how are you doing?
I'm fantastic, Sri. How about yourself?
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you very much for joining me today.
Good to be here always.
Excellent, excellent. So we talked about personal branding last time. So as a continuation of that, what do you got that we can share with the audience on um, selling yourself?
Yeah. Man, it's so much more important to sell yourself rather than to sell your product or service, right?
So,
Because when people feel like you're trying to pitch your product or service, they're more likely to stay away from you. But
mhm.
when you sell yourself well, when they buy into you, you don't have to even really try to sell your product or service because whatever you're selling, because they bought into you, they're now gonna buy, they'll be like, I don't know what you're selling, but hey, I'm buying.
So basically, the selling yourself is, in other words, you're creating a trusted relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Am I making sense?
Yes.
Yeah. So what are the different concept or what are the different tips that you would offer to the small business owners to sell themselves to begin with?
Yeah, most definitely. I think one of the first things is knowing how to engage people in conversation. So, like,
Okay.
selling shouldn't be, oh, here's my product or service, here's the features, here's the benefits, and, talking about how amazing it is. It should be more so selling starts with a conversation, right? And I feel like it's good to get to know the person themselves.
So in
If
other
I,
words,
yeah.
engaging conversation.
Mm-hmm.
So engaging conversation, in my understanding, will go with the five W's, right?
Uh-huh.
As long as you keep when, where, why, what, who in your tip of the tongue, you can generate or you can create instantly an engaging conversation. Am I in the right direction of selling yourself and developing the trusted relationship?
Well, then, Sri, I would ask you, what do you mean by the five W's? Like,
Right. Well,
yeah.
when you are wanting to sell yourself, and
Mm-hmm.
as we talked about it, converting that into a trusted relationship. So when you
Mm-hmm.
are wanting to create a trusted relationship, you want to have the other person talk about themselves, then
Mm-hmm.
they're going to start liking you and they're going to start trusting you,
Yeah.
right? So how do you going to have other person talk more about themselves rather you talking about yourself?
Mm-hmm.
Simply asking them questions. Now, if you wake me up in the middle of the night and say, hey, ask me a question, I don't know, I'm blanked out,
Yeah.
right? So if I have five W's in my hand, oh, where did you come from?
Mm-hmm.
It's
Yep.
easy. Then that's going to lead you into giving me a story. Or
Mm-hmm.
when did you come to United States? Or when did you born? Or where did you born? Or why did you do this? Or why did you even start your business? Or what is this problem about that you're trying to solve? And what is it costing you? What kind of pains is this problem costing you?
Mm-hmm.
See, I gave you like dozen different questions just
Yeah.
simply
Yeah.
using these five W's.
Yeah. I
I
like
didn't even
that. I like
completely use the five W's. I
yeah.
used only three W's so far, right? I don't know, I didn't count them right, but that's what I meant by five W's.
Mm-hmm.
What is that the right direction? Am I thinking?
Yeah,
What
yeah.
is your
No,
take
most
on it?
most definitely because you're using those questions to make it about the other person. And here's the thing. People love to talk about themselves. And
Right.
when you get them to talk about themselves, they now find you interesting.
That's correct. It's very interesting and weird concept, isn't
Yeah. You don't have
it?
to say anything. I never forget. I was talking about this the other day. I was in a networking event. I'm in a breakout room with the lady, and man, she just well, as soon as we got in there, all she did was talk about herself, and I just sat there and I
Yes.
let her talk and I listened. We come out of the breakout room, we get back into the main room, and she's telling everybody, "Oh man, I just met Victor. He's amazing, and this and that." And I'm like, I didn't even say anything. She thought I was amazing just because I sat there and listened to her. I asked her questions. I knew she didn't want to stop talking about herself, so I just got her to keep on talking about herself. And
Indeed, yes.
she thought I was interesting because she let me, I let her talk about herself.
So speaking of that concept, that situation, right?
Hmm.
Let's say you are in the networking event or you're, I mean, Zoom or in person, it doesn't matter. You
Hmm.
don't have a 1 hour to stay with one person, right?
Right.
You're just meeting with somebody, talking to them 5 minutes and move on to the next and move on to the next. So when you ask somebody a question, they take the full 5 minutes to talk about themselves,
Yeah.
right? But then you don't have opportunity to say anything about you.
Hmm.
How do you feel? How should somebody feel about it? Oh, dang it. She used all my 5 minutes. I couldn't even say who the hell am I? What am I selling?
Hmm.
So am I really wasted my time with this lady or gentleman? How should somebody to feel about it? What is your take on it?
Oh man, I feel relieved.
Oh, you feel relieved. Okay. What does
I
it
feel
mean?
relieved. Yeah, you might feel like, man, I might have wasted some time here, but at the same time, like I don't have to use energy to really talk or anything like that. You just do that, and I just say, okay, I'll let you do that, and I'm just moving my and mentally, I'm moving on to getting myself ready for the next person that I'm going to talk to.
I
So
see.
I'm right now I'm conserving my energy for the next person. So I just let them talk away, and I'm just getting ready for the next person I'll be talking to.
That is a very interesting perspective. Thank you very much for sharing that with
Yeah.
us. That's very interesting. So, what other tips that you would want to share on selling yourself?
Yeah, man. Really after you've let that person, talk about themselves, then what I start doing is I'll pick out certain things that they talked about, and
Huh?
then I'll kind of go over that and ask them more questions about that. So instead of just
Correct.
listening to them and then right after that talking about myself, let's debrief kind of in a way what
Mm-hmm.
they said, so they see that you genuinely were interested in them.
Mm-hmm.
Then once you do that, now you want to start finding places. I start looking for common ground.
Yes,
Right. I want to find common ground. Where does my story match up with what they've just said? And then I want to kind of start telling my story in relation to that common ground that goes with their story, if that makes sense.
that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
It does make sense. So the other technique that I have used
Hmm.
is when I was talking to somebody and the this person just started a business and
Hmm.
she is uh, she's so excited and she wanted to talk about what she can bring to the table. And I recognize that she's just new in the entrepreneurship world and she never did any sales and I can clearly see what she's doing. So I turned around and uh, instead of asking her and instead of talking about myself, as I continually asked her, I discovered some of the problems that she's having. And of
Hmm.
course, as a serial entrepreneur, and I've been in the business world for over almost 20 years, so I end up giving her back some of the tools and techniques that she can use on making her business foundation stronger,
Hmm.
such as how do you apply the technology, what kind of email mechanism that you need to use. And she's using Gmail. So you may want to come up with a professional email address opposed to
Yeah.
using Gmail address. So these kind of simple techniques I was giving her. By the end of the conversation, I feel great because
Hmm.
I am able to give back to somebody
Yeah.
that is needed. And she feel great because I end up having her talk about herself rather me talking about myself.
Hmm.
So that is the technique that I've used in order to make it a much more productive conversation.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
That's so effective. And Sri, you're gonna stick out in her mind more than probably anybody she's talked to that day, because very few people make it about the other person. People just want to talk about themselves. So the fact
right.
that you did the opposite of what she's used to would have really made you stick out in her mind.
I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah.
So here you go, folks. Selling yourself equals to building the trusted relationship,
Hmm.
equals to using 5 W's to have the other person talk about themselves. Did I give it a right formula, Victor?
Yeah, man, that's it. Get them to talk about themselves, and when they tell you how to sell to them, and that's when you go in and say, "Oh, by the way, you have that problem. Here's a solution." And then before you know it, they're doing business with you.
Excellent. I
Yeah.
hope audience in this BizBuzz have taken this technique and can apply in their life. But certainly, I recognize that it is not something that you can take it in a snap and start using it tomorrow. It is a change of your behavior.
Hmm.
If you have been born and raised with the one behavior for 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, and in order for you to make this small change overnight is not going to be practical.
Mm.
So be aware of the technique, be observant that it is a practice needed in order to change your behavior, because it is extremely difficult to hold your mouth shut for more than 10 seconds. Not easy.
Hmm.
Trust me, not easy. So a lot of people think, oh, it's easy. No, try it. It is
Nope.
not that easy. So especially when somebody else is talking, oh, here is what I would do. Here is what I was doing it. All of a sudden
Yeah.
we'll be it. So hopefully the audience, if you are a small business owner, if you are a salesperson for a small business owner, you be aware of that. Having using 5 Ws to make the other person talk about themselves, thus you build relationship, and thus they will tell you how to sell for themselves. I hope you can use this technique, practice it, and grow your business. Wishing you all the best. Victor, thank you very much for joining us today. And I always enjoy talking to you. Your inputs and your experience is of great value to me and my audience. Thank you very much.
Likewise, Sree. Always good to be here.